What are you seeing as far as pricing and movement and inventory, those types of things?
So inventory is up. We got more listings available. Days on market is extending, and prices are flattening, specifically here in Southern California. And so I think the reason for that is we have a normal progression of time at the end of summer. We're already at the end of July, August. We start to see that happen anyways. But I think adding to it this time frame of these changes, buyers are now nervous. Buyers don't know how it's all going to work out. I had buyers in June and in May saying, I better buy now because I don't have to pay commission. I better buy now. And so we had a lot of urgency among buyers. That urgency is now gone. It'll all work itself out, but I have a number of listings where showings are down. The offers aren't coming in, and we haven't had that in a long time. Do I think it's crashing? No. I just think that when there's confusion, people don't make decisions except to wait.
Until things seem to become a norm again.
Correct.
And then we go back to status quo, so to speak.
So if you're working with a buyer right now, and rather than having them nervous, this really is a good opportunity for a buyer to make an offer that they think is...
I was just going to say that.
They could take advantage of this small window that says, well, I know I have to pay my own agent, but I'm going to lower the offer price to compensate for that. And because there's no offers on the table, they might be able to get the offer accepted.
Or more concession from the
seller. Or more concessions, yeah.
And it's true, because I'm seeing in my specific area, like some of the properties are still kind of moving quickly, but in general, I don't see the prices dropping so much. Just like you said, just kind of staying where they were. We're not seeing that build one on top of the other. So is there anything else in the market that you think we're going to see moving forward? Like, what's that time frame? You mentioned that status quo. I know I'm asking you to take your crystal ball out, but do you have any predictions on that?
It is already in effect, realistically. It's already being rolled out. So the process is already changing. So I think all agents will be informed by the end of the year, because frankly, there are some agents that do 1 or 2 deals a year, and it's never important to them until they have to use it. And picture the scenario, because I know it's going to happen. They could submit an offer under the new purchase contract, and they may not get paid at the end of the day because they haven't signed a buyer's agreement with their agent, with their buyer, even though they're supposed to. They may not be informed, and they think everything's doesn't realize what documents have to be signed. They could get the offer accepted. They could not have a buyer's agency agreement. I don't know how that's all going to be policed and monitored, because there's no information on that at all. But there's quite possible the situation where a buyer agent doesn't sign the agreement with the buyer, gets their offer accepted, gets no concessions from the seller, realizes there's no compensation, and they've just done the deal for free.
Wow.
It's possible.
It is.
Because at the end of the day, you have a buyer who wants to buy, you have a seller who wants to sell. You're kind of on the same team, working towards an end zone. You might have some obstacles along the way, but I never see those obstacles in a transaction as a buyer versus a seller. It's really a seller wants to sell and a buyer wants to buy. So you're moving in the same direction.
Right.
You have that desire.
Exactly.
You're technically on the same team, moving in the same direction towards a goal. So your obstacles become, did the appraisal come in? Did the underwriter at the loan company, did they see the income the same way that you do and that your loan officer did? Your obstacles become an inspection and something comes up in the deal that nobody knew about. So these are the obstacles. These are the things you're facing as you move towards the common goal.
I think that one of the things you just said in talking is, all of those little obstacles, and sometimes bigger than, obstacles that occurred during the transaction. And I think those things are what really make your agent and work for you, right? So knowing how to deal with those things, knowing how to maybe do some additional negotiation or to handle that process is primary, right? And
Right.
if you have somebody who doesn't know how to do those little nuances,
Right.
you've got a problem.
Right.
And I think it works for your lender too, knowing how to, in the last minute, like have an issue that comes up that now need to figure it out or do, so I think having experience and a understanding of guidelines and everything that comes up is so important. Is there anything else that you feel that a buyer in this environment really needs to be looking out for or
Sure.
aware of?
Yeah, I think that finding the lender that is available, that can explain things, that understands it, is super crucial. We have a lot of, like I was saying, buyers that come to us and they're pre-approved with national firms or with banks, and that's great. Sometimes they offer us like a super low rate, and if you have a client that's super rate sensitive, they may be like, that's all I want. But there are so many additional things that come with that relationship. I remember there was a short sale, and we had certain deadlines as a buyer. We represented the buyer on this one, and we had to perform because in those days, the seller only had a certain amount of time to close that deal because that short sale was quote unquote approved so long as it closed by a certain date. And I remember working with this one buyer, and she and I had to track down the lender, and this lender worked for a bank, and this lender was on vacation, and he was off the grid because when you work for corporate, when you're on vacation, you're supposed to be on vacation, and so nobody could get a hold of the person. So we ended up having to go to his boss and to his boss's boss,
Oh my gosh.
and nobody wanted to touch the file because it was quote unquote his, and it was just very difficult and stressful. And I ended up talking to the office of the president of the bank.
Oh my gosh.
I went all the way to the top.
Wow.
Because we couldn't get answers. And
That's diligence.
Well, I'm fighting for my client, right?
Right.
And so I said to my client, this is what I did. I said, you need to call every 15 minutes or every 30 minutes. I'm going to call every 30 minutes, and we're going to get escrow to call every 30 minutes, but we're going to do it in 10-minute increments. So literally, like, you're going to be at the 10 and the 40. I'm going to be at the 20 and the 50, and the escrow officer is going to be at the half an hour and the hour. And so they're going to hear from us every 10 minutes until we get an answer. And we were so aggressive because we had to get these answers, to the point where the office of the president says, would you just stop calling us so we can actually do the work? But that's what it took. You're never going to be in that situation when you work with somebody who's local, who's a small business owner, who's going to be as invested in this deal as you are.
Right.
You would become one of those callers in that case if we can't get the money from somebody at the underwriter, right?
Exactly.
We had to just go over the top. And that's the only time ever in my career I've had to do that. But I know if she had worked with someone that was local, small business, a broker, we wouldn't have been in that position. But it was a national bank, and we couldn't get a hold of anybody.
No, I get calls in the middle of the night sometimes. You never know. If it's needed, that's what happens.
And so, did she get a great rate on that deal? Sure. But it was so stressful. It was so painful that it would have been way better for her to say, you know what, I would have taken that. We could have got it done a lot faster and paid an extra little bit more because there's peace in knowing that you have somebody that you can contact. So,
absolutely.
I just want to say that, especially as we go through this time of transition, that those kind of relationships are going to be more important than ever.
Well, I certainly appreciate your time, Aaron. Thank you so much for giving your insight. Hopefully we'll get an opportunity to do this again.